In this video, we shall show you how to calculate electric field due to a charged disk. Let's look at the following problem. Find the electric field caused by a uniform surface charge density sigma on a disk of radius r at a point along the axis of the disk at distance x from its center. Let's for the moment assume the charges on this disk are positive charges. The charge distribution is uniform, meaning the sigma here is a constant. The unit for surface charge density is coulomb per meter squared. To do this problem, first we have to divide this disk here into rings, one of which is shown here in blue. So this ring of charge is of radius little r and has a thickness of dr. If you can find the contribution to the electric field at this point due to that ring, then summing all the contributions from all the rings that would fill up the disk, one could in principle find the electric field due to that entire disk at that point. So let's just do that. Before that, we need to specify this distance from that ring to the point of observation. We know from Pythagoras' theorem that distance is just r squared plus x squared square root. So the electric field due to that particular ring is given by 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught integral dq over the square of this distance, which is r squared plus x squared. First, we need to settle the direction of this electric field. We are dealing with a positive disk, so the direction of the electric field will go that way. Now we note there must be two contributions coming from the bottom half as well, going like that. So you see, if this is the y-axis and that is the x-axis, the y component will just cancel out. The top contribution y component going downward, the bottom contribution upward, and they just cancel out. The x component does not cancel out. They indeed reinforce. So if this is the angle alpha, the x component is quite simply the whole expression times cosine alpha. This is a three-dimensional problem, so there must be a z component like that. And using the earlier argument, one can still argue that the z components from the opposing part will cancel each other. We have a right angle triangle, so we know cosine alpha is just x over square root r squared plus x squared. One other thing is dq. dq is the amount of charge contained in that blue ring. It is given by the charge density, which is constant, times the area of that ring. The area of that ring is quite simply 2 pi r times the thickness of that ring, dr. So now we can substitute this expression and that expression in here and in there. Upon substituting those terms, we end up with this expression. You note that this is an integral in the variable r. X is a constant as far as the integral is concerned, because as you move around this ring, the point of observation does not change, thus x does not change. So let's bring these constants out of that integral sign over there. And that's going to give you 2 pi sigma x over 4 pi epsilon naught r dr over r squared plus x squared 3 over 2. What about the limits of integration? This r can extend from 0 all the way to capital R. So lower limit is 0, the upper limit is capital R. Now let's just look at this integral. By substituting r squared plus x squared to be, say, z, you see that you get 2r dr equals dz. Now we can express this integral in terms of z. So that would make the above integral pi sigma x over 4 pi epsilon naught. So this pi goes away. Integral of dz or dz over z to the power 3 over 2. Integrating z to the power minus 3 over 2 would give you z to the power minus 1 over 2 over minus 1 over 2. So that means this integral becomes minus sigma x over 2 epsilon naught z to the power minus 1 over 2. Remember, what was z? Z was r squared plus x squared. Now let's substitute the expression for z here. And that's going to give you 1 over square root r squared plus x squared. Now do not forget the lower and upper limit, 0 to r. Now let's substitute the limits in that expression. So the x component of the electric field becomes minus sigma x over 2 epsilon naught. Put in the upper limit for little r, you get 1 over square root the radius squared plus x squared minus 1 over x. Because the lower limit is 0, when you substitute 0 for the little r, you get that. We can bring the minus sign inside the bracket, and that would give you the following result. So since the electric field due to that entire disk at point along the x-axis, a distance x away from the center of that disk, is given by that expression, you see that the complete expression for the electric field is therefore given by the following formula: 1 over x minus 1 over square root r squared plus x squared I hat. Now let's analyze an important limit. What happens if the disk becomes infinitely large, becomes an infinite plane of charge? So that means we have to set r to be closer to infinity. If you do that, then this term right there will go to 0, because the denominator is so large, inverse of that very large number goes to 0. So under that approximation, the electric field would tend to sigma x over 2 epsilon naught 1 over x. So this x will cancel that x, and that's going to give you this expression when r becomes very large. We note that under that limit, this result that we have just obtained does not contain distance x from the plane. This correct but rather surprising result means that the electric field produced by a very large plane sheet of charge is independent of the distance from the charge. Thus the field itself is uniform. Its direction is everywhere perpendicular to the sheet, away from it, in this case along the x-axis, because the sheet itself occupies the zy plane. Also, when the dimension of that disk is much larger than the observation point, the distance x that is, the field is very nearly the same as for an infinite sheet. An important point is this seemingly simple result has important applications, for example, when you study the electric field due to a capacitor. As always, thank you for watching.